on over. Come on over. War's not over. War's not over. So put your weapon next to mine. So put your weapon next to mine. And run on down the road. And run on down the road.
Military grade. Yay! So what we have is a stuck wheel. We push in the park brakes, we have it in drive, and all the other wheels are rolling, but for some reason, the one just doesn't want to work today. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go over what causes this. We're gonna talk about some air brakes. We're gonna break out some tools. I'm gonna show you how to diagnose it, and then I'm gonna show you how to fix it the right way. The typical thing that we normally do is we'll drive it back and forth until that wheel breaks free and it causes flat spots on our tires. Flat spots on your tires are dangerous for multiple reasons. One especially being loss of tread is loss of traction, and another being possibility of blowouts. Do not be frugal with the chalk blocks. So first one is identifying our problem. If both wheels on the same axle were stuck, it's more than likely gonna be a relay. Here I'm gonna follow all these hoses, and you will be able to track them to the specific relays that they go to. So here's my rear axle, and here's the rear relay. So if I have the driver in the cab pushing on the brake and no air is blasting out, it's possible that this is the problem. So now we're gonna do the first thing on our list of things to try to fix it, and number one is cycle the brakes. We already have our chalk blocks down. We're not gonna put our foot on the service brake. Make sure that air is built all the way up. Have the high idle on so you don't run yourself out of air, but you're gonna push in that park brake for a couple of seconds and then pull it. See in the depiction how the spring goes back and forth. If it's really cold outside, or there's rust inside the chamber, or even dust, sometimes it'll block that from being able to go back and forth. So that's all we're doing. Do the same thing with your actual service brake pedal. Push it in really hard and then release after a couple of seconds. So there's a lot going on here at this wheel. We have all these air lines here, go into our brake chamber, and there's a massive spring inside that makes everything work and releases the actual brake. We're gonna choose violence first. Let's take this hammer and just tap the brake chamber a couple of times. When the driver presses in the brake, sometimes it can get stuck from going forward by dirt and debris. So now we're gonna take our caging bolt off the side bracket, shove it in the back of it, and see if it actually is coming open or not. So I've got all my chalk blocks down. I'm gonna have the driver push in the park brake. All right, Battle, can you hear me? All right, push in the park brake. So he's got the park brake pushed in. I'm gonna take my T-bolt and I'm gonna try to feel where my actual back of the spring is. See, it should be right here because the park brakes are open. So the spring should be compressed. It should be back here. It's not. So I actually have a stuck brake chamber. No issue though. I'm gonna take my caging bolt, stick it in, push all the way in, and then rotate, pull back on it. There are many things that can cause the spring to stick, ranging from the spring against the chamber walls, cold weather, rust, or a stuck wedge between the brake separators. Where a different truck, like in the graphic on the screen, has an S-cam, that wedge needs to be forced out by us caging it. So earlier I barely had enough to get my fingers on it with the bolt. Now look, I've pulled this spring all the way to the rear of the chamber. It's open now. That should have pulled the spring back enough to where the wedge comes out and allows the pads to come off the drum. If they're stuck because of rust, it's time for us to pull out some BII and get a little violent. These are metallic brakes. They do get rusty if they don't move for a long time. That rust sticks up the pads to the drums, doesn't allow it to roll. You can see a few of the chip marks where I hit the drum. Down at the bottom, you can see a few battle scars from where I also hit the paint with that. This is the pad. Again, do not hit your pad. You can break it. That is something you definitely don't want to damage. Hit the drum, it's steel, it can handle it. That vibration should break this pad loose from this drum, and you can actually already see the gap between this pad and the drum. Don't do this at home. You don't want to crack this pad. But yeah, there's a gap there. So now that I've got that open, and keep in mind, there's two of these. So there's one of these on this side. I have to do the same thing to the other side. This is where we're gonna go into the maintenance bay and the little yellow hazmat cabinet. We're gonna get some brake clean. Not WD-40, not PB Blaster, brake clean, because it can help break up some of this rust and it's not going to do any damage to the system. Having a lubricant on your pads, not a smart thing to do. Once you've done this right here, I can take the cage bolt out now and I should be able to move it. Now the very last operator thing that you can do is actually take your wheel off. And then once you have it off, you'll see the brake drum and hit that thing like you're Thor trying to send somebody home. And you should actually be able to break that rust and everything free. Put your wheel back on, put your lug nuts on, try it one last time. Now after you've done all those things and it still didn't move, then you've got to call the mechanics. Call a wrecker if you're out somewhere besides the motor pool and get that vehicle looked at. Something much deeper is wrong with that wheel that it's not freeing up. All right, well there's my class for the day. This class was actually a request from someone that knew me, sent me a message, and asked me to do this. Hopefully it helped you, and hopefully others can use this help as well. Let me know in the comments section if you want to see something else, and I'll get it done for you.